this is where it came. Yeah, you could have heard the cheers from one end to the other when that first message arrived in that the guys had arrived and they were safe. Well, that was indeed a time for celebration. And it was, it's a pretty incredible achievement to think of. Here you are, 15,000 miles away, message going out, guy sitting over there with a hand crank generator spinning this stuff out. We knew the answer, getting the answers to our questions right away.
The two-man radio team made contact with the resistance in Lhasa. Here, the Dalai Lama's government and the occupying Chinese forces still maintained their uneasy alliance. 8 months later, in the summer of 1958, the resistance moved out of Lhasa and set up a military base in southern Tibet. The radio team went with them. More than 5,000 men gathered here, and a series of attacks was launched against the Chinese. The two men radioed the success of the guerrilla campaign to the CIA, who then made the decision to step up its support. They made their first arms drop to the resistance. In late 1958, the CIA decided to train more Tibetans, and a top-secret training facility was created in the Colorado Rocky Mountains.
This whole area here is Camp Hale, this whole area, up and down the valley here. That's the area in which we trained the Tibetans. We thought that the conditions up at Camp Hale somewhat duplicated the conditions in Tibet. Mountainous terrain, the temperatures, and the climates. The Tibetans were brought up here in buses, and they were trekked into this area here, which was all cordoned off, this from mountain to mountain. That was patrolled by military police. The training area consisted of a series of Quonset huts in which the men lived, and we had a recreational area where we were able to give them some recreation, and we had classrooms and so on and so forth. And of course, in connection with the training, we would make overnight trips up into the mountains to teach them hit-and-run type tactics, guerrilla type tactics, if you will.
Over the next 5 years, 259 Tibetans were to be trained at Camp Hale.
We loved American things. And the Chinese always called the Americans imperialists and the enemy of the world. So it was obvious they really hated them. So we had great expectations when we went to America. We thought perhaps they would even give us an atom bomb to take back with us. That was our hope. Because we wanted to fight the Chinese, we were ready to die. That's all we could think of.
It was unique in the sense we were working directly with people who believed very much in their own cause. And that, I think, gave it a rather unique quality. It was the thing that certainly had caused the tremendous rapport. And I just got hooked on these people. They were great. And then I started learning about their cause. And it seemed to be something that I would like to lend myself to and could certainly do with wholeheartedly.
We had this group and we trained them, and the people who did the training, of course, fell in love with them. From an emotional point of view, quite apart from national interest and pragmatic situation, all that, we felt so strongly about the Tibetans themselves and their Tibetan cause that if we could roll the clock back to the time when they were truly independent, we'd love to do that.
During the training period, we learned that the objective of training was to gain our independence for the struggle for Tibet. The idea was, all of us was gradually go back to Tibet down there and organize the resistance movement, organized way, not in and out, so that we can, pressurize the Chinese gradually, force them to leave our country. That was the main objective. In our games room, we had a picture of Eisenhower, signed by Eisenhower's to my fellow Tibetan friends from Eisenhower. So you know that. So during Eisenhower's period, so it was. We thought it's even from the Eisenhower himself is giving us the support.
Although the trainees at Camp Hale believed that they were being readied for the struggle to regain Tibet's independence, this was never the official American policy.
I think basically the whole idea was to keep the Chinese occupied somehow, keep them annoyed, keep them disturbed. Nobody wanted to go to war over Tibet. That's pretty clear. We didn't go to war over Korea, and we didn't go to war over Indochina. We weren't going to go to war over Tibet. And so it was a nuisance operation, basically nothing more. And I would think that from the American point of view, it wasn't going to cost us very much, either money or manpower. Anyway, it wasn't our manpower involved, it was the Tibetan manpower. And we would be willing to help the Tibetans become a running sore and a nuisance to the Chinese.
The anecdote I like to tell about Alan Dulles was the fact that he asked me to go up to the director's office and brief him on what was going on in Tibet. He says, now, where is Tibet? We stand up on the leather couch in his office, and he has a National Geographic world map up there, and he's pointing to Hungary, and he thinks, is that Tibet? I said, no, sir, it's over here where the Himalayas, and
That's really cool.
By March 1959, the situation in Tibet was coming to a head. In Lhasa, news spread that the Dalai Lama had been invited to the local Chinese military camp to attend a theatrical show. He was to come alone, without his bodyguards. The people of Lhasa gathered outside the Dalai Lama's summer palace, determined to protect him. Meanwhile, the resistance was in control of a large swathe of southern Tibet. The CIA made a second arms drop.
Around that time, we received a letter from Lhasa, from the Dalai Lama's Lord Chamberlain. The letter said that His Holiness was ready to leave, and that if he didn't leave soon, the situation was becoming desperate. The two of us were told to come as soon as possible to a place near Lhasa, and we were also instructed to send this information to America.
7 days after the Lhasa uprising, the Dalai Lama, disguised as a soldier, escaped from his palace. These pictures show the Dalai Lama and his entourage, escorted by resistance fighters, making their way south into guerrilla-held territory, where they hope to set up temporary headquarters. The radio team met up with the escape party.
About every 24 hours, they would send us a message giving us their location, and we were able to take that material and then feed it into the intelligence bulletins that were kept to senior officials